Okay, so today we are going to look at what is going to become the basis for our unit circle. That's going to be something that's going to be really, really important. So in order to be able to create a unit circle and use it properly, we have to have a very good understanding of the exact trig values for our special angles, the 30, 45, and 60 degrees. We need to be able to find those exact trig values without using a calculator. So here is what you need to know. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it all needs memorized. Now, pieces of it you should memorize, but doesn't mean that everything in this table needs memorized. But you need to be able to find them and find them relatively quickly. So for 30 degrees, which its radian equivalent is pi over 6, for 45 degrees, whose radian equivalent is pi over 4, and 60 degrees, whose radian equivalent is pi over 3, we need to know their sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Now, obviously, if you know the sine, cosine, and tangent well, you can create the other three by knowing that the cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So here at the 30 degrees, we see the sine is 1/2. The reciprocal of that would be 2 over 1, which is what I have here for my cosecant. So we always want everything in simplest radical and fraction form when we are finding these trig values for anything that is based on a 30, 45, or 60 degree. Now, you could, if you wanted to, memorize this whole table. Make yourself some flashcards and just know them. And if you can do that, that's great. I don't know all of these by heart because I instead choose to memorize the special right triangles that you learned way back when and be able to find the values based upon that. Now, some of them I do know by heart. Generally, I know the sine and cosine of all three of these. But you can find all those if you know these right triangles. If you know that a 45, 45, 90 general triangle is 1, 1, radical 2. If a 30, 60, 90 you know is 1, 2, radical 3. And here is what I mean by that we can use them to find anything. So the directions on your classwork are going to look like this. They're going to say evaluate the trig function using a calculator if necessary. If possible, give an exact answer. So basically, if it's anything that's from the table, you have to give an exact answer. It's not a choice. The if necessary only means if you can't give an exact answer. Then we would use the calculator. So here, sine of pi over 4. So that's in our table. So if you know the table, that's great. You can write down what the answer is. Most of you are probably not going to memorize the whole table. And so what you need to be able to do is to say, okay, pi over 4 is a 45-degree angle. So I know that this is a right triangle whose hypotenuse is radical 2 and sides are both 1. So if I want to know the sine, you can mark your 45-degree angle, so because that's what pi over 4 is, and know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite over hypotenuse, and then just rationalize it. So radical 2 on top and bottom, and it's radical 2 over 2. So if you know it, that's great. Do not, here's what I do not want you to do, is to look at the table and just copy down the answers, because that's not doing either. You're not getting this table on any quizzes or tests. So if you're going to memorize it, that's great. Just write the answer. But if you're not, then you're going to need to show how you came up with your answer. Okay, next one is cosecant of pi over 3. So pi over 3 I know is a 60-degree angle. So, and those you definitely do need to memorize. You need to memorize that pi over 4 is 45 degrees, that pi over 6 is 30, and that pi over 3 is 60. You definitely will need to know those values. So if I find the cosecant, remember that cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So I should know, since I know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, that this one's going to be the hypotenuse over the opposite. So if I draw my triangle here, and I can't really tell which angle I made bigger, but let's say I made this one bigger. So pi over 3 is this angle. It's the 60-degree angle. I know that in a 30, 60, 90, the short side is 1, the hypotenuse is 2, and the long leg is radical 3. So in relationship to the 60-degree angle, the hypotenuse is 2, so that goes on top. The opposite means across, is radical 3. So 2 over radical 3 is my cosecant. Again, you have to put it in exact simplest radical and fraction form, so I need to rationalize here. So on top, that gives me 2 radical 3. On bottom, it just gives me a plain 3. So 2 radical 3 over 3 would be my cosecant of pi over 3. All right, next one, cotangent of 2 pi over 9. Now, that one's not in my chart, and what we did in the first half of this lesson is we did some conversions. So, just like we could, if you didn't know that pi over 3 was 60 degrees, you could find it out by doing what we did in the last lesson, which was multiplying by 180 over pi. So pi's cancel, 180 divided by 3 is 60 degrees. We can do the same thing here, 2 pi over 9 times 180 over pi. The pi's cancel. 9 goes into 180 20 times, and 2 times 20 is 40. So 2 pi over 9 is 40 degrees. 40 degrees is not in any of my special right triangles. So that means that I am going to have to use my calculator on this one. So only when it cannot be written as one of our 30, 45, 60 angles are you allowed to use your calculator. So this is the cotangent of 2 pi over 9. Now, I want to show you two things because I just showed you what the degree equivalent is, but if you don't want to find the degree equivalent every time, if you know that it's one of the ones where you're going to use your calculator, you can find the trig values in radians. But the thing to be careful of is if you do that, you need to remember to switch it back the next time you're trying to work with degrees. Because all too often on the trig test, I get people who have their calculator in the wrong mode and get the wrong answers because they forgot that they were dealing with radians and it should have been in radian mode, or they were dealing with degrees and it should have been in degree mode. Right now, if you did the last lesson together with me, then you should already have your calculator in degree mode right now. So if it's in degree mode, then you can just press in, because cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, 1 divided by the tangent of 40 degrees. So again, you can check your mode. It's the third line down. If degree is highlighted, you can do 1 divided by tangent of 40, close the parentheses, press enter. You should get 1.19, and we've been rounding to 4 decimal places, so we'll just continue that. 1.1918, which is the answer. Now, if you prefer not to convert to degrees and to take responsibility for changing back and forth between degree and radian mode, then what you can do here, if you go to your mode button, when you hit it, you should see the whole mode screen, and again, the first line says like normal, scientific, ENG, and then the second one says float, and then it's got all the numbers, and then the next one is the line we will be dealing with. You see radian and you see degree. So if it was already in degree mode, you did it this way. If you want to do it in radian mode, that means you need to move your blinker over top of radian and press enter to turn it into radian mode so that radian is highlighted. If you do that, then you can press this in exactly like it is. So we know cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, so 1 divided by the tangent, and you can just press in 2 pi over 9. So if I try it that way, 1 divided by parenthesis tangent, 2, your pi button, if you didn't know, your pi button, you have to press second and then the arrow key. So second arrow key gives you a pi, then divided by 9, and then you have 2 parentheses to close so that it looks like this, and then press enter. And it should give you the same answer. Again, if you've changed to radian mode, these are equivalents, the 2 pi over 9 and the 40. So it should always give you the same answer as long as you are actually working in the correct mode. So again, it's your choice. You can either do the work to convert to degrees each time, or you can make sure that you're going to keep on top of which mode your calculator is on and switch back and forth between the radians and the degrees. Also, little disclaimer for you here. You have to make sure that if you are borrowing someone else's calculator or borrowing my calculator, that you are responsible for knowing what mode it is in, because that is not my responsibility. You have to know how to use your calculator and what mode it needs to be in to get the right answer. So just make sure that you stay on top of what mode your calculator is in, and you're responsible for knowing how to change that. All right, so hopefully now we know how to find the exact trig values without using your calculator. We also learned a little bonus of how to use the calculator when we need to. So I think that's our last example. So Thomas out. Peace.